the eyes behind the paint. For 17 years, Elias had kept the upstairs hallway sealed. The door at the top of the stairs remained locked, the key buried in a drawer beneath old tax documents and childhood photographs he never looked at. He told himself it was practicality. The room beyond had water damage, exposed lath, and wiring that had never been updated. No one needed to go in there. No one ever asked. But suppression has weight. It settles in the chest like damp plaster, pressing inward until breathing feels like an effort. Elias felt it most at night, when the house was quiet and the hallway light flickered once before steadying, as though something had passed beneath it. One evening in late February, after a day spent staring at spreadsheets that refused to balance, he found himself standing at the foot of the stairs. The key was already in his hand. He could not recall retrieving it. The lock turned with a soft, reluctant click. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Dust lay evenly on every surface except the far wall, where the paint once pale blue had begun to bubble and peel in irregular patches. Elias stepped closer. The bubbles were not random. They formed shallow depressions, each the approximate size and shape of an eye socket. He reached out, fingertips brushing the surface. Not a crack or flake, but a deliberate movement, as though whatever lay under the skin of the wall had blinked. Elias froze. His pulse filled his ears. He told himself it was a trick of light, an optical echo from years of avoiding mirrors after dark, avoiding his own face, because it reminded him too much of his father's, the same narrow jaw, the same guarded eyes that had learned early not to show anger, grief, or anything that might invite comment. He pressed harder. The blister split. A thin slit opened, revealing not plaster or insulation, but darkness, and within it, a moist, unblinking pupil. It regarded him steadily, without hostility, only recognition. More blisters opened. Not all at once, but in sequence, like breaths being drawn after long silence. Eyes appeared, dozens of them, some the color of his own, some darker, some clouded, as though they had waited too long in the dark. They did not move. Elias felt the pressure in his chest release, not as relief, but as rupture. Memories he had walled off rose like damp rot. The night his father had stood in this very room, voice low and controlled, explaining why certain feelings were better left unspoken. The mornings Elias had practiced blank expressions in the bathroom mirror until the reflection obeyed. The years of polite distance from everyone, including himself. The eyes did not judge. They witnessed. And in their quiet attention, Elias understood that suppression does not erase. The door closed behind him without his touch. Downstairs, the hallway light steadied and held. In the days that followed, Elias found himself returning to the locked door, not to open it, but to listen. Sometimes he heard faint breathing from the other side, synchronized with his own. Sometimes he caught himself staring at blank walls in other rooms, searching for the subtle swell of paint that might conceal another watchful gaze. He has not yet painted over the hallway wall upstairs. He tells himself he will soon. But each time he reaches for the brush, his hand hesitates. The eyes are patient. They have waited 17 years. They can wait longer. And Elias, for the first time in decades, feels seen. The man with the garden of faces. I first saw him in the alley behind the laundromat, hunched like he was examining the cracks in the brick. I thought I'd misread shadows. I was wrong. Shadows rarely wore coats that bulged at impossible angles. The first doll appeared at his spine. Tiny porcelain head, cracked at the temple, eyes staring blankly upward. I thought it was a prank. Then I realized it was breathing. Or he was. I didn't ask. He didn't notice me. Didn't need to. He cultivated them silently. A garden, if your gardens were stitched into a man's flesh. Rows of pale faces, sprouting from back and shoulders like grotesque orchids. Some old, some new, all alive. I laughed once, bitterly, because my brain insisted on normal explanations. He tilted forward, and the dolls swayed slightly, like wind through chimes. The motion was deliberate, meticulous, not random, not organic, designed. By the third night, I could count 18. Eyes open, eyes closed, smiles that were too wide. Some wept, some whispered when he exhaled. I stayed in my car, breath held, hands trembling. I thought he was a collector, a sculptor of nightmares. Then I saw the stitches, neat, surgical, running along his spine, across shoulder blades. They pulsed slightly, as if feeding the dolls from him. My stomach rebelled. I looked away. He moved through the alley, bags slung over each shoulder. He carried the newest editions. I counted 5 more. All pale, eyes glossy, still alive. He hummed softly. A lullaby I didn't recognize, but felt in my chest. Sometimes he paused, and they moved independently, heads tilted, mouths opening slightly. I imagined them talking, plotting, judging me. I felt watched. Of course I did. I was. I tried to call the cops. My phone died. Of course it did. Then I realized I didn't need proof. I didn't need witnesses. I needed distance. I trailed him once, keeping to shadows. He turned a corner, and the light caught the dolls fully. Faces merged with flesh. Some seemed to smile at each other. I felt nauseous. I should have screamed. I didn't. At the next alley, he stopped, lowered a bag to the ground, unzipped it slowly. The light from the street lamps hit the newest one. Small, delicate, fused to a spine that wasn't yet ready. He touched it gently, whispered. I didn't hear words, but the tenderness made my skin crawl. I stayed hidden, recording with shaky hands. My recorder captured a faint hum, almost a chant. The dolls swayed in rhythm. He stepped back, inspecting his work. One doll blinked. Not mechanical, not painted, blinked. By the 5th night, he had 42. 42 faces growing, shifting, alive. He never spoke to me. He never acknowledged me. Yet I felt his awareness. Like he knew I existed only to watch, only to catalog. A patient audience. I considered leaving. I drove past the alley in daylight. Nothing, just shadows and peeling brick. I laughed, foolish. Of course nothing. The garden waits. Patience is part of the design. Then I noticed movement in the brick border. Tiny white faces pressed against the seams. Dolls? Not dolls? I couldn't tell. I drove faster, heart hammering. One night he stopped, turned slowly, hunched, exposed his back fully under the alley light. I counted 37, and 40, and 42 again. They shifted. Some leaned forward, others craned sideways. Alive in a way no human should witness. I couldn't breathe. I laughed sarcastically. Well, you've done it, I muttered under my breath. You've turned yourself into a carnival of wrongness. He tilted his head just slightly, and I swear one doll winked. Not a blink, a wink. My mind refused it. My body betrayed me. I ran. Weeks passed. He disappeared. The alley returned to shadows. Bricks returned to themselves, but the smell lingered, sweet and metallic. The faint pressure of hundreds of eyes following me through my day. I dream of him often. Not the man, the garden. The swelling of faces, stitched to human skin, growing toward impossible perfection. Waiting, watching, patient. And sometimes I catch movement in my reflection. A tilt of a head, a subtle, porcelain smile. Not mine, not entirely. Because gardens like his don't stay in alleys forever. They grow, they find new soil, and they remember. The gardener of skin. I knew something was off the second I saw the basement door. Not the usual off. Not the kind you ignore, because city basements are disgusting by default. No, This off was alive, vibrating, breathing, waiting, waiting. He was hunched over again. Same coat, same alley, same meticulous ritual. Except now, it wasn't just his back. His shoulders, arms, even the backs of his legs bulged with pale shapes. Too many shapes, too many heads. I tried to count. 20? 30? No. By now, it didn't matter. Each one was fused into skin, with stitches I swear had a pulse. The flesh around them rippled subtly, like a pond in a breeze. I laughed, bitter, because sarcasm is my first defense. Sure, I muttered. You're a human garden, perfectly natural. My stomach disagreed violently. He noticed me this time. Or at least I think he did. Hard to tell when someone has 50 faces fused to their body. He turned slowly. Each head moved independently. Some blinked, some smiled, some wept, some whispered. I wasn't supposed to hear them. I did. The whispers weren't words, not really. Half syllables, echoes, memories of people who had been here, maybe, maybe not. I winced at the tone. We're patient. We remember everything. One doll leaned forward. Its mouth opened wider than possible. A laugh, high and brittle, escaped. I could almost hear it. Finally. A new spectator. I knew I should run. I didn't, because I had to see what came next. I always have to see. He reached into a bag, pulled out something small. A new doll, pale and delicate, but squirming slightly. Still alive. Tiny, infantile movements. I gagged. He held it over his shoulder. Whispered. Something affectionate. Tender. Human. Perhaps. But the doll twitched violently, almost in protest. I shivered. Then he pressed it against his back. Skin parted like wet paper. The doll sank in slowly, like a seed planting itself. The flesh closed seamlessly. Perfect. Horrifying. I backed up, stumbling over trash cans, sidewalk cracks, whatever I could find. My hands trembled. My sarcastic commentary left me. I didn't even breathe properly. He turned to face me. Every fused head tilted toward me. Eyes glossy. Some missing pupils. Some cracked. Some perfectly whole. They all watched. You like it? He asked, his own voice calm. Polite. Professional. I laughed, bitter, sharp. Like what? That you're cultivating corpses on your spine? A laugh answered me. Not his. Not mine. Coming from the dolls themselves. They started moving, slowly, first just the heads, then the shoulders, then the limbs. Fused arms extended outward, twitching independently. My rational brain tried to tell me it wasn't possible. My irrational brain screamed, "It is." I ran, around him. The dolls followed, or maybe they were moving on their own. Some detached entirely, rolling along the pavement, crawling. Small porcelain hands scraping concrete. I almost screamed. One grabbed my ankle. Cold. Hard. Teeth? No. Just porcelain fingers. I kicked. It flew across the alley, landing perfectly upright, staring, waiting. He smiled. Human face. Polite. Approving. They like you, he said. And I noticed. It wasn't just dolls anymore. It was pieces of him, bits of flesh fused to porcelain, crawling like a swarm. I tried doors, locked, windows, bars. He moved faster than I expected, though he never broke stride. I ran blindly, slipping over wet concrete, tripping, hands scraping brick. The dolls reached me from the walls, not figuratively. They had grown inside cracks, crevices, splitting from his spine like seeds. They climbed, scrabbling, whispering. One touched my face. I swatted it away. Skin peeled slightly. I realized too late it had sewn itself lightly into my cheek. I could feel it. Breathing. Waiting. Learning. I laughed again, sarcastically. Well, this is a new low, I muttered, voice shaking. Human doll infestation. Really hitting the market standards. He didn't respond. Didn't need to. The dolls did. Hundreds now. Crawling, climbing, tilting, observing. Each movement synchronized with the faint pulse I felt in my chest. I tried to fight. Punching, kicking. One grabbed my wrist and attached lightly to my skin. I could feel tendons twitching. Not mine or mine. I didn't care anymore. He reached out a hand. Gentle. Almost human. I recoiled. His fused arms, heads, limbs whispered encouragement. Accept. Join us. I realized then, the dolls weren't just extensions. They were rewriting physics, biology, reality. My vision doubled, tripled. Each blink revealed more of them, writhing, crawling, fusing. I screamed, loud, ugly. The sound bounced off the alley walls. The dolls leaned in, mouths parting in mimicry, as if enjoying my panic. He tilted his head, polite, observant. One doll detached fully from his back, small, infantile, crawled up my chest, into my shirt. I could feel it pressing, rooting, whispering. Its tiny hands merged lightly with my ribs. Pain, curiosity, panic. I didn't understand. The streetlights flickered. Shadows stretched. The alley lengthened. I tried to run, but the dolls had grown to fill the space. They were everywhere. Ceiling, walls, sidewalk, my legs. I tripped into a dumpster. Heart racing, limbs flailing. The dolls were relentless. They scaled the sides, pouring over me, merging partially into my clothing. Their whispers became a chant. We are patient. We are many. We are inevitable. He approached slowly, his human face calm, polite. Every fused head nodded slightly, as if agreeing with him. I felt the weight of 50 fused, whispering, moving, observing lives pressing against me. You're learning, he said, not accusatory, just factual, like teaching a student. But the class was horror. I kicked, pushed, screamed, but it was useless. They were faster, smaller, more adaptable. A porcelain hand pressed to my cheek, my vision blurred. Pain, excitement, nausea. He smiled. Human, polite, horrifying. Soon, he whispered, you will understand the garden. The dolls began attaching fully, fused lightly at first, a wrist, an ankle, a shoulder, then harder, a leg, my back. I could feel the stitching, the pulse, the strange warmth of porcelain melding with skin. I screamed, laughed sarcastically. Well done, I muttered. This is exactly the career hazard I wanted. By the time the streetlights flickered out entirely, I was part of it, part of the swarm, part of the garden. I could see through 50 pairs of eyes now. Some cracked, some crying, some blinking. All aware, all patient. He stood over me, polite, observant, proud. Good, he said. You'll grow well. The alley exhaled, and I knew I would never leave. Because gardens like his don't just survive. They expand.